There we go. Okay. Good afternoon. The Memphis Landmarks Commission is hereby called to order for its regularly scheduled meeting of April the 27th, 2023. My name is Cindy Tucker, and I'm the chair of the commission. Mr. Brett Ragsdale serves as the executive secretary of the commission. Mr. Ragsdale, may I get a roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Boyd?
Here.
Mr. Gill? Here. Ms. Love?
Here.
Ms. Strong?
Here.
Chair Tucker?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The Memphis Landmarks Commission and the local historic district provisions are established to ensure preservation of structures that are of historic value to Memphis. Our function is to preserve its significant resources, enhance community pride, and foster civic beauty, and ensure compatibility within designated historic districts. The Commission is authorized to review projects and determine their appropriateness based on the design review guidelines. At this time, I would like to swear the staff in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. Thank you. May I get a motion to approve the minutes from the last month's meeting? Anyone here that was there? I wasn't here.
Second.
The last month's meeting.
Motion to approve. The minutes from last.
Are we the ones that weren't here? Okay, so there's not a second, unless we just second it, because we weren't here to approve them.
Well, and you don't have to actually have been here.
Okay. Okay. So anybody want to?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Mr. Secretary, please provide us a secretary's report if there is one this month, and then explain the procedure for the meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do not have a secretary's report. I do want to note one item. Item number 7, the applicant has requested a hold, so we'll hold that for a moment. Update to the agenda.
7. Okay.
The procedure for this meeting will be as follows. I will introduce each case as listed on the agenda. Copies of the agenda are found on the right podium. For each case, staff with the Division of Planning and Development will give a presentation. At the conclusion of the staff presentation, the applicant will have 5 minutes to present his or her case. After the applicant's presentation, the commission will hear first from those speakers in support of the application, then from those speakers in opposition to the application, and the speakers will have 3 minutes each. And then finally, the applicant will have 3 minutes to provide rebuttal. These times do not include time for questions from and answers to members of the commission. The chair may provide additional time, provided both sides are given an equal amount of additional time. All parties who wish to provide testimony to the commission will be sworn in by the chair. If a member of the audience wishes to provide testimony in support of or opposition to a particular case on today's agenda, he or she will need to fill out a speaker's card for the record. Speaker's cards are available at the front podium. Once filled out, speaker's cards can be submitted to any DPD planner at the left podium. We do not need speaker's cards from the applicants since their names are already part of the record. After all parties have been heard, the commission will close the public hearing, make a motion, and then deliberate on the case. All motions by this commission will be made in the affirmative. The bylaws governing the commission require the affirmative vote of a majority of the attending members to approve an application. The commission may also vote to hold an application for a period of 1 month. Madam Chair, I submit that all cases have been filed in proper order, all applicants have been notified of this hearing, and all notice requirements have been fulfilled.
Thank you. At this point, the commission will establish a consent agenda. To establish the consent agenda, the secretary will call out each eligible case. If any member of the audience or commission objects to a case being placed on the consent agenda, he or she should do so by a show of hands when the secretary reads the case. Once the agenda has been established, the commission will vote on all cases placed on the consent agenda as a whole and will not hold individual public hearings on each case. Mr. Secretary, which items are eligible?
Item number 2, COA 2023-020-2152 LZ Avenue, with a friendly amendment to add a condition number 9, windows shall be consistent in terms of style and grid pattern. Item number 8, COA 2023-032-893 North McNeil Street. Item number 9, COA 2023-034-2095 LZ Avenue. Item number 10, COA 2023-035, 69 East Pontotoc Avenue. Item number 11, COA 2023-038, 1545 Central Avenue. Item number 12, COA 2023-039, 875 South Cox Street. And item number 14, COA 2023-042, 1074 Police Street.
Thank you. May I have a motion? Were there any objections? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as established by the secretary? Need a motion?
Motion to approve.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I would like to remind the commission that by voting on the consent agenda, he or she affirms that he or she has read the staff report and is in full agreement with the conditions. Okay, do you want to do a roll call, or I did an aye? Okay. If you are here for those cases just listed on the consent agenda, you have been approved. You don't need to stay for the remaining of the meeting, but are welcome to stay if you'd like. Okay, thank you. At this point, I would like to state that the minor COA applications as listed on the agenda have been reviewed and approved by the commission. The commission will now continue with the regular hearing of the major COA applications as listed on the agenda. Mr. Secretary, please call the first case.
Item number 1, COA 2023-012, 297 North Willette Street.
Is applicant present? Are you the applicant? Okay. Did you want her to stand there? Or?
Do that one? Okay.
Okay, could you please state your name and address?
My name is Kay French, and I live at 4861 Larice Avenue in Memphis, and I'm representing Mary Ann and Jim Thompson.
Okay, would you raise your right hand, please? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth will help you God.
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Have you had a chance to read the staff report?
The staff report, I'm not sure. All I know is that they did not, the Historical Society.
Does she agree with what you're representing, the owner?
The Thompson, yes.
Okay, then do you know if they agreed with the staff report and the conditions on the staff report?
Well, Madam Chair, if I may, we're actually recommending rejection, so.
Okay. So where do you want to go from here?
Yeah,
It's
so
rejected.
if you want to hear a brief presentation.
Yeah.
They're watching on YouTube, so.
Okay. All right, so let's do the staff report then.
Good afternoon. I'm Robert Harris. I'm a staff planner with the Division of Planning and Development, and I'll be presenting COA 2023-12 for 297 North Willette Street in the Evergreen Historic District, and the applicant is Jim and Mary Ann Thompson. The request is for site improvements to install a retroactive site improvement to install a side yard fence. The house is shown in the red brick right there. The current fence measures approximately 4 feet in height. The subject property is 8,000 square foot lot. Located on the west side of North Willette Street, the subject property is a 1.5-story bungalow built circa 1920. The current fence is made of wood and is opaque. The purpose of this fence is to prevent trespassing and to cover the light pollution stemming from the string lights at 305 North Willette Street. These string lights are hanging from the poles of a previously existing cyclone fence separating the properties. The current wooden fence does not meet the fencing criteria laid out in the Evergreen Historic District guidelines. Generally, front yard fencing is not in keeping with the open park-like stretches on either side of the street. However, for unusual or compelling reasons, the design guidelines suggest that if a front yard fence is necessary, it should be open fencing. Furthermore, appurtenances related to new buildings, including driveways, sidewalks, lighting, fences, and walls, shall be visually compatible with the environment of the existing buildings and sites to which they relate. So the staff recommendation is rejection for retroactive site improvements to construct rear and side yard fences in accordance with the district guidelines and comments stated in the staff report. But if approved, staff recommends the following conditions. The applicant shall enclose the whole front yard with a fence along north and east property lines and along the driveway, as shown in the diagram right there by the yellow dashed line. The second condition would be to have the front yard fence be of appropriate materials such as wrought iron or transparent wood picket, and shall be a maximum of 3.5 feet in height. And any change or deviation from the approved certificate of appropriateness shall be submitted before the Memphis Landmarks Commission for review and approval. And this concludes my staff presentation.
Okay, does the commission have questions for staff? Since nobody, I mean, they're not here.
We got,
But she is here to represent
I'm here.
Yeah.
them,
But-
so yes.
Yeah, they're willing to do a picket fence on the fence that's already up there. They don't live in Memphis, and
She needs to introduce.
they had no idea.
She
that-
did. Yeah, yeah.
They had no idea that the Historical Society had rules and regulations, and there was a chain link fence up there that's been there for over 30 years, and the neighbor next door had a tree cut down, and the tree man said that he couldn't work on the tree with the chain link fence, and there were bushes in front of the chain link fence, and he tore them all down, and they threw away the chain link fence, and you know, all they had to do was put the fence back, and they didn't, and they just left the metal post. And so then the Thompsons put up a knockout roses, and the neighbor said that the knockout roses were killing her roses, and the roses all died. So the Thompsons decided to put the wood fence up there, and because the homeowner is stringing lights from the one metal pole to the next where the chain link fence was. And so they're willing to make that a picket fence. They see no need to put a picket fence in front of the house because there's no children, no animals, and it really wouldn't fit the decor of the house, putting it in the front.
Okay, do the commissioners have questions for the applicant or the representative of the applicant? Okay, do we have anyone in? Okay. All righty. So I'm going to close this for discussion. And do we want to speak to each other?
Yes, if we can get a motion to approve and then a second to
No,
close the
you-
public portion.
We need a motion to approve with the, yeah, go ahead.
Motion to approve COA 2023-012, address 297 North Willett, based on the staff's recommendation.
Okay. Do you have a second?
Second.
For purpose of discussion?
Discussion, right?
Uh-huh.
Second.
Thank you. Okay. So they approved of, the owners approve of the picket fence? One of your conditions?
Picket or the wrought iron, I believe, are the options if we were okay with approving there being a fence at this location, period. Because the rejection, I believe, is not having one at all, right? Essentially. Like for it to be completely removed.
She's got,
Well,
Wooden fence, because it's not in
right, the
alignment.
current wooden fence, yeah.
It's not in alignment with the guidelines. So, either a wrought iron,
or a short,
3.5 feet.
or a, it's here, number 2. Right there.
Or transparent. And they're agreeing to a 1 wood picket fence, right?
That's what she said. They agree with the short, the 3.5 foot tall picket fence?
Yes, they're willing to put the picket fence on that one side. And would you say 3, whatever? Yeah, the 3.5 feet, they're willing to do that and just do the one picket fence. Just make that one fence there already a picket fence.
Are they not agreeing to put anything in the front? Or just on
They had
that?
said
She
that
said
there
on
was
the
no
side.
need for the front. They didn't need the front. They said there's no children, there's no anybody that they're worried about. So it's essentially replacing that chain link fence that was there previously.
I'm like having trouble hearing everybody.
Yeah.
so could-
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Can you hear me? All right, so there was no need for the whole wraparound per the applicant or the applicant representative because there's no kids that they're worried about running out in the front yard or anything. It's just merely replacing that chain link fence with not this, this is rejected, but replacing it with either that wrought iron or the picket fence. And I believe they even said picket fence would be the simpler version, and we know that would be that 3.5 foot tall. So I'm personally okay with that, just because there was one that existed. There was a fence that existed in that location previously.
Chain link, though.
It was chain link. I mean, picket would be better.
Grandfathered in.
Wrought iron
You
would be
okay with
better, but
No, I was saying it was grandfathered in. If it had been over 30 years, it was probably grandfathered in. The chain link fence
I
was,
really can't.
the chain link fence, since more than 30 years, was probably grandfathered in. That's all I was saying.
Was there for 30 years?
That's what the representative said. It's been there for 30 years. I would like to point out, based on
Evergreen?
the,
There are quite a few letters of opposition in here.
well, the letter from the Neighborhood Association, and its staff report did reflect that basically front yard fencing is inconsistent with the design guidelines of Evergreen Historic District. And even, it's not a corner lot. It's not a corner lot, which, and it's inconsistent. And even if, I guess my question is, a wrought iron fence would allow more transparency. I do think fencing the whole front yard is, again, inconsistent with the design guidelines. But if it was, the wrought iron fence would probably be more transparent than the wood picket fence. So I think the design guidelines of the Neighborhood Association, their preference is for transparency if there is a fence, if the commission approves a fence. But if not, then if it's rejected, then it is in alignment with the design guidelines. If fence is approved for installation, I think having it be as transparent as possible would be the best outcome if it's approved. So,
Wrought iron.
like the wrought iron. At 3.5 feet.
I think that it was wise of the recommendation to be either or, because we know there are cost implications with it as well, but both will provide a level of transparency. I'm okay with that option number 2 and 3. I don't think the first one really is applicable to this project, particularly saying that that's something that they don't need anyway. So hopefully, it better have to figure out how to do this in my face. Okay, so you're saying that you would rather it just be the wrought iron option. I'm saying that go ahead and let them have the either or option between the wood picket fence or the wrought iron, whichever one suits or they have the ability to put in. What are your thoughts about that, Brown?
Can I respond?
They might replace it with the wrought iron.
Either or, like option number 2 does that?
The wrought iron looks way better.
Yeah, I think it would look way better, but
And it's more consistent with what you find in it.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the wrought iron looks significantly better. But I also understand both issues, so it depends on which way the board wants to go. If they're willing to do the wrought iron, I can certainly support it.
Assuming this is a rental house.
it is. It's a rental house, right? It's investment property, essentially.
I'm sorry, Ken.
It is in a rental house, and I'm
It's a-
sorry, this is supposed to be internal discussion. I
I just wanted
apologize.
to make sure.
You can open it back up if you want to ask questions, but
That's the one question I would like to ask is,
if there's no objection, if you don't want to open it back.
yeah,
No objection.
is this a rental property?
Yes, it is.
Okay, is someone in it now? They've
Yes.
rented it? Okay.
And the Thompsons have maintained inside and outside the house. The yard has always been maintained.
Okay.
And like I said, the fence is already there, and we're hoping that we can just make it a picket fence.
All right, thank you. Wrought iron.
I'll support the wrought iron.
Yeah. Okay, so,
Can we talk about it being preferably the wrought iron? Or you just want it?
I want wrought iron because I think it's nicer for the neighborhood too.
So basically, if they are going to put something there, let it be the wrought iron. Got it.
Okay.
Or nothing at all.
So now we have to update the motion.
I
You
think
made
I've
it, not me.
got, so essentially we would strike condition number 1. Condition number 2, we would strike of appropriate materials such as, and then after wrought iron or transparent wood picket. And so it would read, the front yard fence shall be wrought iron and shall be a maximum 3.5 feet in height. And then we would then have the condition 3. So we would essentially have those 2 conditions.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think wrought iron or no fence at all.
sorry.
Wrought iron or no fence at all.
Right.
He said we're just wrought iron, he didn't, yeah.
Right, so yeah, they get approval for wrought iron, so they can do that, or they can't have the fence. So I've got that, so if there are no objections, then we're good to go. That's,
To have a vote?
all right. Ms. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Ms. Strong?
Yes.
Ms. Love?
Yes.
Chair Tucker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Did you understand that the staff will get with you?
Yeah, it's hard to hear, so I don't know what y'all approved.
Pardon me?
I said I couldn't hear what y'all approved.
Oh, you can speak with Mr. Harris. and he'll-
He'll help you out on that and explain it to you.
Thank you very much.
Uh-huh,
I
thank
appreciate
you.
your time. Sorry, I haven't done this before.
Well, it's a difficult position that you're in right there. Would you call the next?
Item number 3, COA 2023-023, 903 North Willett Street.
Is the applicant present?
Good afternoon.
Okay, could you state your name and address, please?
Pierre Adolphus, address 1439 East Moreland Ave, Memphis, Tennessee,
Okay, your zip.
38104.
Okay, raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, have you seen the staff report?
Yes.
Okay, or do you agree with the conditions in the staff report?
No.
Okay. Then we need to see the,
Presentation, absolutely. Jordan McKenzie, staff, DPD. This is 903 North Willard Street. It's in the Valentine Evergreen Historic District. The request is an exterior alteration request. Basically, do some exterior renovations. It's supposedly supposed to be retroactive, so window replacement, painting on the sides, things like that. And we did have 3 conditions. These are the current conditions of the home. As you can see, the top picture is where a lot of staff's apprehension came in when it came to the window replacement, because as you can see, the original design was 4/4 grid pattern, and they replaced it with double hung 1/1, and it's not in texture or in line with the design guidelines for the historic district. Where if you're going to do window replacement, they have to be in the same pattern and size. These are the proposed materials again, the lap siding and the replacement windows. And these are just a quick outline of the guides from the exterior alterations in section 2.10, the building materials, and 2.11, windows and doors. There was some mention, and I possibly could be wrong, but I'll let the applicant clarify if I am. There was some mention about the brick, possibly repainting brick or restoring the brick to its original color. But when upon investigation, it didn't look like the brick had been painted. So that is one of the reasons why one of the conditions is that the brick remain undisturbed and unpainted, or if it should be restored to its original color. And these are the 3 conditions. We're still proposing that the replacement windows shall match the existing style of the home, existing windows in terms of style and size, not the ones that they actually put in, but the actual original ones, the 4/4, and that the paint and that the brick shall remain undisturbed. Unless it truly was painted, then it should be restored back to its original color, and any changes, deviations should be submitted to the Landmarks Commission. And that concludes my report.
thank you. Commissioners have any questions for staff? Nothing? Okay.
Do we know what the original size windows were?
I'm sorry, say it again?
Do we know what the original window sizes were?
The original size windows, no, I don't know the size, but if you look at the photo, the original photo, it
They're
shows.
65 inches, ma'am.
Sorry, say it again?
65 inches.
Oh, 65 inches.
65 inches, and they're the same width as the windows that we put in. They're 38 by 65 were the original windows. The windows that we put in were 36 by 62. So it's a small difference, but due to framing and the old windows that were in there, which have been in there since the home was built, as you can see, it's a full renovation on this property. They were completely destroyed.
Okay, any other questions of staff? Thank you. Would you like to present your case?
Yeah, so from what I've been told, the Valentine Evergreen Historical District is fairly new as far as being a historical district. Pretty much on that street alone, 60% of the houses have new windows put in. They're not the original windows. The staff is looking for us to put windows in that have the grids in them. We don't see the difference in why that would be needed if every home on the street already has new windows and it doesn't have the grid in. I brought some photo evidence of that. As far as the brick being painted, we never wanted to paint the brick in the first place, so it hasn't been restored it doesn't need to be restored or anything. It's still in its original condition, so that's not anything that we are objecting against. We don't need to paint the brick. The biggest concern was replacing the windows that were already put in.
Okay. Do y'all have any questions for the applicant?
I do have one. Did you know that this is a historic district when you purchased this property?
I'm just a representative. I didn't purchase the property myself, but no, we weren't aware.
Gotcha.
Did you say they did know? Okay.
Did not know.
Okay. Any other questions?
I can't help but notice that the windows that were installed it doesn't look anything like even width-wise of how the original windows were.
Right there, the original windows were 2 inches bigger than those.
In width and in height?
Than height, yes, ma'am. But with the width, the height difference is 3 inches, I'm sorry.
And I believe that's part of the issue is that the windows that you have placed in doesn't even look like they belong,
Well, we had
at
to
all.
stop construction, of course, and we were actually going to be framing around those windows, so it will look.
Yeah, and that's not proper at all. Just to frame around the windows, just to kind of fill it in, and then kind of have this weird thickness that happens with the extension of the seals and the jams and all of that.
We're free framing with the same brick that's on the house, so it wasn't going to look like, it's not going to look like it was reframed out, basically.
Any other questions? Do you have any opposition or support? Okay. All righty, I'm going to now close the public hearing portion of this to further discuss the case. Could we have a motion in the positive for discussion?
I motion to approve staff recommendations so that we can move this into discussion.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Discussion?
I mean, I don't think that there's anything really here to discuss. They just need to go back and redo the windows with the proper windows that meet the criteria for the neighborhood.
What about what did he say about the brick part?
Shall remain unpainted and be restored to its original color. That's what condition number 2 says. All unpainted brick shall remain undisturbed and previously painted brick shall be restored only to the original color. I do think this is an example of where the openings on the front facade, you can definitely see how it.
The openings what?
The openings on the front facade, I think this is an example of how it truly impacts a house or a structure. I do agree with all the staff conditions. It should be replaced back. The original window opening should be restored. I do agree with staff conditions.
Did anybody ask about the fact if this is the only 2 windows, this is just the front windows are being affected, nothing around the sides, nothing around the rest of the building? It's just the front 2 these 2 front windows, right? 2 groupings.
Is it on there?
Okay, I just didn't see any pictures of the rest of them, but
Is it all around, staff?
So if I remember looking at the site's photos correctly, I believe the 4/4 grid pattern is only in the front. However, the way that the condition is worded is that any windows replaced, they should match the original size and pattern. So even wherever they are on the home, if it's a 1/1 on the back, well, it needs to be 1/1 on the back. If it's 4/4 on the front, then that's what it needs to be. So.
I guess with that, it's I would be a little bit more lenient with a 1/1 if the rest of the windows around are in that kind of pattern. But because I don't see that. What it says here is paired 4/4 double hung windows. So, if it's just this that needs to get replaced, I mean, the size needs to fit. It needs to be taller, it needs to fit the current opening, it needs to be the proper width. It's these 4 windows. So I am in agreement with staff recommendation. Even the mullion that's supposed to go in between the stud bank or whatever, that's between the double windows.
Okay. Any other?
I agree with Joyce.
I do too. So we're all in accordance with what the recommendations were for staff. Okay, could we have a,
All right, so I guess make a motion. We'll make a motion to approve staff recommendations.
Yeah, I think we've got that, so, yeah, we can vote. Ms. Strong,
Yes.
Love,
Yes.
Ms. Boyd,
Yes.
Mr. Gill,
Yes.
and Chair Tucker.
yes,
Carries.
thank you.
I
And
do have
Val,
one last question. So with the replacement of the windows, do we still have to go back with the grid pattern, or can we have blank windows like they are now, like the ones we have now? I understand the size needs to be changed, but they also said that we have to go back with a certain grid style, and that was on the original windows.
I think we can talk.
talk
with
to,
you about
the staff will help you take care of
that. Be
that.
happy to help you.
Okay, call the next case.
Item number 4, COA 2023-025-361 South Main. That's a 1 month hold, I'm sorry.
Oh, that one's
Trying to
full
get
for a
this
month.
Item 6, yes.
We're on,
Here we go. Item 6, COA 2023-029-863 Garland Street.
is the applicant present? Oh, there you go. Okay. Do you state your name and address?
First name John, last name Nguyen. Address is 863 Garland Street.
What was that?
863 Garland.
Okay, thank you. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Have you read the report, staff report?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Do you approve of the conditions?
I don't.
You do not?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we'll hear the staff.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Aisha Penzes, Division of Planning and Development. Item before you is a retroactive request for exterior alterations to paint exterior stone and brick facade and fill in 1 window on the front facade of the structure. Here is a view of the subject property from Garland Street from January 2022. As you can see, the facade is brick and stone, and the left side of the porch is enclosed, and there is 1 window that is on the right side of the front facade. The applicant started exterior alterations without COA approval and received a citation due to work being done without a COA approval and necessary building permits. And alterations include painting of exterior brick and stone and closure of the aforementioned front facade window. So Mountain Evergreen design guidelines strictly prohibit painting of unpainted brick and stone exteriors. And regarding windows and doors, infilling of historic openings generally are not approved based on their design guidelines. So the staff recommends approval of these alterations with 3 conditions. The first one is to the original window opening that is filled in shall be reopened, and the new window that match the original windows of the structure in terms of size, header height, grid pattern, and style shall be installed. The applicant shall submit proposed window details to staff review prior to issuance of the COA. The second condition is that a new exterior color scheme shall be established per the commission's suggestions and provided for staff review before the COA is issued. And 3, any change or deviation from the approval shall be submitted to the commission for review and approval. This concludes my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. We have questions for staff?
Where exactly was the window?
The window was on the left side of the front facade.
There.
Here you can see it on the Google Street View, but the photos that we received from the applicant and from the inspectors that issued the stop work order stated that there is no window facing the front of the house anymore.
Never?
So it's just flat board, flat siding on this front? No, you'll be up. You'll be up. Okay. All right.
Feels weird. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, any other? So there never was any window there that you know of?
I'm sorry.
There was a window there? That's what I was thinking. Okay.
There was. I just didn't see a picture with it.
Okay. Are there any pictures? Yeah.
So apparently, it is totally boxed in now. There is no front window on the front facade. However, this used to be a porch area, and it was boxed in, but they left a window on the front facade. And now, the application that's before us, the front window that is on the front facade has totally been boxed in. There are no openings on the front facade, except for the door.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Thank you. You have 5 minutes for your comments.
Well, I just plead the case because I had no idea that, due to the crime rates there, the previous window was broken whenever I purchased the house. And I just felt like it was just better because it had the previous siding on it. So I just took out the window and just redid the siding just to cover up that window because there was no need for that window due to it just being a storage area of however the house was.
Did you know you were in a historic district?
Whenever I purchased the house, no, I didn't.
Were you issued a stop work order?
No.
Or you had completed all improvements?
Yeah, I already painted and covered it before I received the stop work order.
Did you say you never got a COA?
No, I didn't.
Have you ever built anything before?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add to?
Well, besides the covering the window and the paint code, I didn't know there was a specific color we're supposed to follow by being in historic district.
Okay. Do y'all have any other questions for? Okay.
I think for this particular historic district, the design guidelines for the neighborhood recommend unpainted brick shall remain unpainted, and that includes stonework as well. So, since you, just so you know going forward, the preference is for the unpainted brick and stonework to remain unpainted for this neighborhood.
Okay, anything else? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing portion of this case. Is there anybody for or against this? Okay. Further to discuss it, I need to have a motion in favor of the positive to continue our discussion.
Move to approve COA 2023-029.
Second.
Second? Okay, thank you. Okay. We're going to talk to each other now.
So I think page 5 of the staff report gives us a good idea of the facade that's cut off. Page 5 of the staff report gives us a good picture since this one is sort of cut off and you can't see it from the view, page 5 of the staff report.
No, go ahead. You have to.
Do we know if this window here is the original?
It's not. It was a porch.
It was
a porch.
full porch. Portraiture.
Before he got,
Portraiture.
before this
Okay.
current, I mean, it was already, somebody had already
Somebody
pretty
already
much,
put some on it before it was
Yeah.
probably a
Somebody-
historic district.
somebody already defiled this building beforehand.
You got a,
Yeah, that's what it was.
There's a picture of it in here.
And basically, it removed the last vestige of any kind of possible opening that would have been there. But I can tell you, having no window is worse.
Yeah,
In that,
yeah.
I mean, because that space may not always be a storage per se, and you just made a decision for something that,
I mean, it doesn't even look like that
Did you
siding
find
meets
it?
up with,
girl, it don't,
okay,
it don't.
that brick.
But that wasn't, I don't think that, well,
part of the conversation, yeah.
Okay, so
Porch windows shall be, I'm in agreement with the staff.
I don't even think the original window was centered on the, I don't think
It wasn't.
So, if that whole wall got rebuilt, or was it just a matter of filling in that opening and then, like in the wood studs, and then the siding being put over on top of it?
behind it.
Yeah, like, is this a permanent change, or was this literally like that opening refilled and then just siding put on top of it? That,
He can step back up.
It's probably a room.
You want to ask him this, do you want to ask him a question?
yeah, sure. If y'all are okay with that.
We're fine.
Okay with that? For the structure of your window, was this you putting studs in it, or did you just run the siding on above it and put sheetrock behind it, kind of thing?
No, I just took out the window and just did siding over the previous siding.
Was there any structure for that window opening that you put in there?
Sorry, I didn't understand that.
Did you actually,
Cut through.
when you took out the window, did you put any kind of like studs or anything, or build it out so that there was some support for you to, or was it just plywood over it?
Well, obviously, the window was like a 32-inch, so I just put one single 2x4 right in the middle of it, and then just did siding over the previous
So
siding.
sheathing, then siding?
Yeah, just covered.
And then on the interior, you have the gypboard that filled over? Like, so the opening technically is still there?
No, like,
I mean, if you took out said stud that you put in the middle,
yeah, so if you were to take out
cut the
siding,
opening around the sheathing and and put the window and the framing and the trim, and it would all, okay. I was just curious just of how intensive you went into filling this hole. So appreciate it.
So the a window could be punched back in there.
The opening, from the sounds of it, is still there, so.
I have a question. So if you could look at page 5, on the side, they have the two
No, is that-
windows on page 5 of the staff report. See on the side elevation, if you were to have the two windows, because you talked, it sort of wasn't centered, but if you would place like the two windows on the front where the siding is, if you put the window back, if you put the window opening back, if you did the two windows like you see on the side where midway in the back.
Well, I don't know if we can require him to do more than what was already there,
But
even though it would look better.
that's the reason I'm
It would
asking,
look better,
because I think
but-
it would look better, and it would sort of camouflage the boxiness that we see, and it would make it where it's not obviously it's boxed in, the porch is boxed in, but it wouldn't look as boxy. It would be consistent, or it would just have more, yeah, I just think that would be an improvement. I was just wondering if, yeah.
Yeah. I would like to ask staff one question, if that's okay with the crew, if that's possible. It's my understanding that we can't really request them to do more than what was existing. Is that accurate? Since there was a window in the front, we can't, can we or can we not ask them to do more?
I mean, I guess as the commission, you can really do whatever you want, but our policy has always been, I mean, this was, purchased this way, and so generally speaking, you know, he can go back and put it back the way it was, and.
So that would be like at minimum do this, or you can, if you
Because with
choose
that-
to do
with
more.
that, this would be considered a no effect. Now, the painting would still be something that
Right.
is part of it, but yes, if somebody goes back and puts something back the way it was, then it's essentially like it never happened. And so, yeah, going beyond that is not generally what the commission would do.
Got
But
it.
you can include, I think, the option at a minimum, the one.
Right.
And then, but you do have the option to install the two. That sort of makes it more consistent
Right.
with the side elevations on the
You
front.
could do that and just do it as an option that way, because that would require a
Right.
COA. And so you could have that as an option, and that way they wouldn't have to come back and get a COA if they decided to do it.
Right, okay.
Yeah, we can provide that as an option, although I highly doubt it will be accepted considering the fact it was taken away because it was a storage room. But
can ask. I
we can
mean,
definitely put it in there.
Can we ask the applicant, do you sort of, just to see if he understands, well, it doesn't matter. Yes, it's included as an option, yes.
Okay. So,
So we have a motion. Are we finished?
otherwise, I think.
Did you want to add anything to it? Okay. Can vote?
Ready to vote? Okay.
We agree with the paint. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we agree with the paint. Yes.
Absolutely.
With what?
Right,
You?
and if, I
Yeah,
mean,
did you need that, but you don't want to add anything?
Nope.
Right.
I think the only part though with the option was adding the option to item number 1 of
right,
doing more if he so chose.
we can add that as an option that they can install a window on, I'll determine which side this is.
Right.
And if you want, unless you guys want to offer some color suggestions, you could just have it to be provided for staff review prior to issuance of a COA. So we could, condition number 2, we could strike, shall be established per the commission's suggestions, and so it would just be a new exterior color scheme, shall be provided for staff review prior to issuance of the COA.
That's fine.
All right, ready? All right, Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Ms. Love?
Yes.
Ms. Strong?
Yes.
Ms. Boyd?
Yes.
And Chair Tucker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Wherever he is. Thank you. Where he is.
And I don't know what that noise is, so. we may-
They're having a party over there. They were set
Oh,
up for a
okay.
party.
So we may have to speak up a little bit more even, so, I know I was told after the last Ladies Control Board meeting by someone that I wasn't speaking loud enough, so I'm trying to moderate that to a point where it's not overbearing, but
It's just right.
can be, yes, exactly, that's what I'm working on, so. All right, our next item is item number 13. COA 2023-041, 609 Jefferson Avenue.
Okay, is the applicant here? Okay. Okay, can you come to the, oops, sorry, microphone?
He was here a second ago.
No, the applicant is the applicant.
It was Peter Warren is the applicant, and he was sitting back there a second ago.
Did Peter walk out?
Yeah, he may have gone out for a second. So why don't we do this? You want to just jump to item number 15? And then
Sure.
back to that if he...
Out of respect for Peter, yes, he probably just went to the bathroom.
Yeah, probably so. Okay, let's go to item number 15, COA 2023-045, 956 University Street.
Okay, is the applicant here? Okay.
Good afternoon.
Hello, could you state your name and address, please?
Yes, Sandra Hoof, 956 University Street,
And your zip?
38107.
Okay, thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Have you read the staff suggestions in the report?
I have not. I actually just got out the hospital and I haven't.
Okay.
I didn't know anything about them until the last meeting and I haven't had the opportunity.
Okay. She hasn't read yeah, well, he probably does. Okay, since she hasn't read it, you do not, we were asking, Commissioner was asking if you had a copy of the staff report.
Well, and Madam Chair, we are recommending rejection, so
We are.
we need to hear it anyway. So
Yes.
yeah.
I can give her mine. You've got it, do you have an extra? She could just take. That's rejection.
She hadn't done me yet.
Do I just go hand it to her?
No.
She wants to do it, but I don't think she has done it. The heck is that?
Brett, well, you can give her this one. I know.
Yeah, let's just jump to presentation. Then
Well, you can do, yeah, let him.
Okay. That's fine.
I did, when I saw it, I did. And I
Do a presentation and help you step through it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, hello again. I'm Robert with the Division of Planning and Development, and I'm presenting COA 2023-45 at 956 University Street in the Valentin Evergreen Historic District. And the request is for site improvements for a wooden fence along the north property line. So the side where you see this truck is in the photos. The subject property is a 7,492 square foot lot located on the east side of University Street. The subject property is a one-story, single-family home built in 2007. The applicant is proposing a pressure-treated wooden fence along the north property line, extending from the sidewalk to the rear property line. The fence would be 4 feet in height from the sidewalk to the front plane of the house and 6 feet in height from the front plane to the rear property line. The proposed site improvements do not adhere to the Valentin Evergreen Design Guidelines requirements. The applicant is proposing a 4 to 6 feet tall, but the fencing in front yard should be no more than 3.5 feet and should have a transparent quality. Only transparent elements such as spaced wrought iron and wood pickets are appropriate for front yard fencing materials. Chain link, vinyl fencing, split rail, and split solid stockade fences are not allowed in front yards. So the staff is recommending rejection for site improvements to construct this fence. However, if approved, the staff recommends the following conditions. The front section of the fence that goes beyond the front wall of the house shall be a maximum of 3.5 feet tall and shall be made of picket or wrought iron materials. The second condition would be the back section of the fence shall be a maximum of 6 feet and should begin at the front plane of the house, excluding the front porch, and any change or deviation from the approved certificate of appropriateness shall be submitted before the Memphis Landmarks Commission for review and approval. This concludes my staff report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff at this moment? Okay, so this has been suggested for rejection.
Okay,
Do you understand?
I do understand.
Okay.
And I also wanted to make a comment. I don't know if you have a closer picture of my reason for wanting to put that fence. I don't have a problem with not putting the wood fence, but I need something there to separate myself and the neighbor where the truck is, because he's making bigger dents in my yard. The wood fit, the picket fence, I guess that's the small wood fence, that would be fine, but he's made it perfectly clear that he would run over that fence. So I would like to have something there that looks decent, but also something he's not able to destroy because he's destroying my property.
Okay. So she seems to be fine with putting something there that's different than, would you do wrought iron?
I would do it. Now, cost would probably be an issue for me because I'm, disabled at this point, but something needs to be there.
Would you be fine with a wood fence just along that property line? On just the side? Would you be fine with a wooden fence just on the property line?
Yes, that's what I thought my original recommendation was, the 4-foot wood fence along the side in the front, I guess considered the front from my front porch up, and then just stopping at the street, yes.
That is actually the request. It's
With the
just-
6 and 4. That's what she's proposed.
Right.
Right. Because we heard this case. Did we hear this at LUCB or at
No, this was at the
design review? That's right.
Right. I was requesting the 4 feet up front, in front of my, front porch, and then 6 feet in the back.
Yeah, we could tell in design review that you actually did really have an issue with your neighbor.
I'm sorry?
Because you do have an issue. We could see it in design review that you have that multifamily next door, and the guy keeps driving in your yard.
You can see it. You can see some ruts in the.
Yeah, there were
in this
ruts. I
picture.
felt her,
Pain.
her pain for not being able to control her neighbors. So I'm just looking now with the.
So you can see on the left side, there's damage, there's ruts in her yard. I'm seeing it, aren't I?
You're correct. I remember seeing, there were some better pictures I think you provided us.
Right. I actually had brought the little, whatever you call the little pieces of wood to kind of divide us. And
It looks like one's there. Is there one?
Yeah, well, what's there now is what's left of what he's already torn up. Some of the guy did my yard yesterday.
Yeah,
so
she's got it.
He put it back together, but some days it's in the middle of my yard because he'll run over and flip it over. He also drives an 18-wheeler.
He parks that too, and it goes over your yard.
He has bagged it up, but I think.
That's illegal, you know.
Well, code enforcement did get
called
him
code
on that.
enforcement.
But they will come, like, if he has someone in his driveway and they have a lot of traffic, I have pictures in my phone with another car, a full car in my yard. So it's been like 3 or 4 years of just.
I want to help her.
So I just need something to separate it.
What was the audience suggestion? Well, code can. We can't. Tell me, planner, what do you think, knowing her need, what would you suggest as the planner to help solve her problem that you could support?
And
Well, I would suggest a fence that like follows the neighborhood guidelines, so just the height would need to be adjusted.
To
what
4
she
feet?
proposed, yes, and,
3.5.
I'm not sure of the sturdiness of a picket fence, but just if that will do the trick, then I would recommend a transparent fence, but if not, then I'm okay.
So a 3.5 foot picket fence with transparency from front to back would meet the neighborhood requirements. Oh, and it can be higher in the back.
Yeah.
Are you against that?
So what do you mean picket fence? The little cute white picket fence? And I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just saying, based on this neighbor, and he's made it real clear, put a fence up there, I'm gonna tear that you know what down. I've even had a couple of police reports that if I call one more time, they're gonna come get him. And I'm trying not to send anybody to jail, I just want my property.
Yeah.
But with the picket fence, is this little cute little picket fence, or is there something with a little bit of stability to it?
No, it's pretty costly, but that's the only reason why I said wrought iron, is he might be
Less likely
to want to back into it, because it's not
run over
going to,
it.
that'll hurt, maybe hurt his vehicle.
We could give her the option. What we could do is vote on like, as long as you meet these heights and you
And
could do
appropriate
wooden.
material.
And it was, what was that?
And appropriate materials for the neighborhood.
And it met the appropriate materials for the neighborhood, that you could build the fence you wanted to deter your neighbor from driving in your yard. We could give her some flexibility based on cost, so we're not sticking her with a fence that she may or may not want to pay for based on what you determine the cost is and the effectiveness of it.
But I would like to add that I would verify, like as a confirmation with,
With staff.
with staff as to what that appearance would be, if it's the appropriate level of transparency that you need for us to be okay with that. I think it would be, so you don't have to come back for us, or they're like, it's like
That's what I would ask as well, you know, what are my options? And, you know, as long as they're this, as long as they're transparent or whatever, tell me what my options are, I can work with.
And that's what they'll help you with.
Yep.
Yeah, I can certainly support this by giving her, like, whether it was wooden or iron.
Yeah.
She met the criteria in the neighborhood, and she could solve her own problem.
Because she knows what she has to deal with over there.
Right, I agree.
I wish you could have a concrete
Just to
pier.
keep it in, as long as, our job is to go by their guidelines. So that's what we're trying to do, but we also want you to have something that you can work with and is substantial enough so that those large things, you know, that might hurt theirs too. I mean, you know.
Okay.
Trying to help you out.
Appreciate it.
So,
Well, and we did recommend rejection, but if approved, we already have the conditions, I think.
Yeah.
Set forth that you guys are discussing.
yeah.
Is there anything, other options, like with picket, we have picket, wrought iron. Is there anything that's appropriate as to even having like the brick piers with the wrought iron in between if possible? So like if there could be a little bit more, which of course is, but just giving the
financial.
possible.
Yeah, I know.
Look, if we have like a group funding or crowdfunding something so we can to help this out somehow. So, yeah, so I just want to make sure that there's enough flexibility of creating as much as possible that would suit her needs and still be appropriate for our neighborhood.
Oh, did we want to ask an audience member that they have another comment to help?
If I may.
Yeah, go
Please.
ahead.
Yeah, well, you need to come to the podium and give your name, do all this, so.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sorry to ask for an audience. These guys seemed really handy, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
State
just
your name and
name and address.
Scott Blake, 671 Jefferson Avenue.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Scott.
I run into exactly the same problem on another property. And the way we solved it is we put in 4-inch diameter steel posts, filled them with concrete, and then wrapped them in a wood wrapping and with pickets in between. So that certainly kept the trucks from backing in, and it still looked good.
Yeah, that'll give it a little.
Pain.
Uh-huh.
I want her to be paid. I know, me too.
Appreciate it all, sir. I think we know what we want to do.
Yeah, okay, so I think we're fine with the,
So move this to approval, because I don't think we've done personal discussions, but I think, yeah, okay.
Kind of threw it all to the
So a
wind.
motion
we need a
to
motion.
approve staff recommendations for this, this particular, I forgot what we call item.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, so we pretty much agreed and we're okay with that, with the, maybe providing just a tiny bit more flexibility with the options of, we got picket fence and wrought iron or any, because I think this is just, instead of saying shall be made of picket or wrought iron materials, I think the previous language that you had about appropriate materials such as picket and wrought iron should be sufficient. And then she could just come back for staff approval as to whatever ends up being the end choice. Does that work with you guys? Because I think the rest of it is okay.
It works. I'm sure it is for him too. You good with that?
I'm good with that.
Okay. We're good.
So just minor changing to add a little bit more flexibility with the material choices. Sure. So, all right.
Tap on, because she's willing. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so he did say something about concrete. How can there be like concrete on the end?
That's below the grade anyway. It's just kind of like providing almost a foundation. And then the steel pipe is what would be nestled in between of exterior, almost like a build-out.
Okay.
Built-out kind of post.
Okay.
That will cover up.
Right, okay.
Set.
Strength.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you could do a brick wall. You could do a brick, not a wall, but you could do a brick structure also. So we're trying to give you the flexibility to price different options that might work well for your problem.
Yeah, and just go back to staff to make sure whatever it is that you decide to do is cool with them.
Okay with them. Okay.
All right, so,
Ready for a vote?
yep.
All right. Ms. Strong?
Yes.
Ms. Boyd?
Yes.
Ms. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Chair Tucker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our last case is item number 13, COA 2023-041, 609 Jefferson Avenue.
Is the applicant present? Yes. Thank you. That's okay.
Is this the one we already rejected while you were in the bathroom?
Weren't here, so state your name and address,
Hello,
please.
my name is Peter Warren. My address is 2231 Brewers Landing, Memphis, Tennessee, 38104.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Put your hand up, so help me God.
Yes, I do.
Okay, have you seen the staff report?
I have. It's been a few days, but I have.
Okay, do you agree with the recommendations?
Yes.
Okay. We have one in opposition, so we need to see the staff report.
Good evening again, Jordan McKenzie, DPD staff. This is 609 Jefferson Avenue in the Victorian Village Historic District. This is an exterior alteration request. Well, I'm sorry, it is a alteration request because it is converting the existing commercial structure into a triplex, but it's exterior as well as the interiors. And just getting right into it. This is a site plan. They're gonna take, like I just said, they're gonna take the existing commercial structure. There is no changes to the brick facade. There will be some different kind of siding, but there will be no changes to the brick facade itself. 6 parking spaces will have landscaping as well as it is a full wall along on the corner of Neely and Jefferson, but there will be patio space on the west and east sides of the building with the parking on the south side. And these are just some renderings. The parking, one half of the parking, I don't think both sides, but neither side will be covered. That covering towards the rear is just for being able to walk outside. And staff only has 2 conditions: that all architectural plans and materials be consistent with the design guidelines of the historic district, and that any changes or deviation from the approved COA shall be submitted to Memphis Landmarks. So.
Thank you. Staff, any questions of staff on the commission?
Was there anything specific that stood out that wasn't in adherence with the current guidelines?
No.
With this structure?
Not particularly, no. There was nothing that was inconsistent. There can be some deliberation, probably what the opposition has said about the part of the fencing for its placement, but the design itself, there was no issues. Now, that's my understanding. I'm sure the opposition or the applicant will give some more meat to that, but based off staff's report, based off staff's analysis, there was no design issues.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. Applicant? Did you want to make a statement?
Yeah, so this is kind of an unusual project. We're introducing residential into an existing non-contributing commercial building. We're on Jefferson. We're in the southwest. We're the southwesternmost parcel in Victorian Village. Victorian Village historically was and is still principally, I would say, a residential district. There are some commercial uses in the neighborhood. There's a vacant building to our right that's been empty for, 5 years or more. It's kind of a nondescript warehouse building. There are a couple businesses on the north side of Jefferson. There's a pet hospital, and which is a vet clinic, and then Sunrise Memphis, which some of you might have been to. But I guess, we're proud of our client for introducing and reactivating the building. It is, like I said, it's unusual. It was built in 1967 for an elevator company, and we're putting 3 apartments in it. And I guess that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Do commissioners have any questions for the applicant?
I'm just going to say, Peter, what same thing I said on design review. What a lovely design for the old elevator building. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, what we're trying to do is engage and define a front yard, which I think we're probably going to hear more about momentarily, and then introduce some windows in a modern language. This is a modern building, so the building is either all glass or all brick at the moment, and so we're needing to balance that out with the interior program. Nobody wants to live in a fishbowl, and then at the same time, everyone needs and code requires a window in a bedroom. So,
other questions? Thank you. I have one in opposition. Scott? And you've already been sworn in.
Scott Blake, the Executive Director of Victorian Village Community Development Corporation, and also the writer of the design guidelines in 2017. First, we welcome this. We think it's a really great design. We love the residential adaptive reuse of the building. We just have some conditions in the Victorian Village design guidelines that we would like to read into the record, and it has to do with fencing. Can we go to one of the perspective views of the front and side?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Perspective view of the front and side.
Oh, yes.
So the new plan calls for a 6-foot masonry wall in the front yard that projects out half the distance between the building and the street. Our guidelines, 8.2 on page 20, fencing from the front yard should not be more than 48 inches high and have a transparent quality. 8.3, on the side yard, fences 7 feet from the street and should be transparent. And then 8.5, retaining walls should be no taller than the level of the yard. So I haven't had a chance to meet with Peter or the owners about this. What we're hoping to do, and what we've done with a lot of the infill residential on the same street, is introduce more of the front yards and more of the ability for people to see and be seen, making a safer street. So we would like to suggest a few design modifications where we don't have the solid masonry wall on the front. The retaining wall, again, is much higher than we have in our standards, but we do on the side street, that's a private street. We'd happy with that wall there because it creates a private garden, and even would be pleased to see it even go farther and wrap around and perhaps take 2 of the parking lot spaces in the back to create a much larger courtyard. So those are our thoughts, and we're happy to meet with the owners and the architects to discuss further.
Okay, thank you. Do y'all have any questions?
When the original guidelines that you worked on was put together, was this one of those items or potential of this type of project? Was that something that was considered during that time frame of creation?
It certainly was. I've been running the Community Development Corporation now for 22 years, and it was right before we knew the neighborhood was about to explode with Orleans Station and a lot of other infill development. So we created these design guidelines to help preserve the historic properties, the proportional relationship of new infill based on those historic properties, but also adaptive reuses from business to multifamily.
Were there any considerations as to the setback lines? I mean, I know some of the residential projects that have come before us with that were infill, they had a little bit more room from sidewalk, face of sidewalk to the face of the building itself.
Yes, the rest of the houses, although they're Victorian, either original, 1868, 1863 on the upper corner, and then the other ones match that setback. So that setback's 24 feet from the street. These are much closer, about 12. But that's because that was all urban renewal area, and they bulldozed historic structures to build these mid-century infill.
And I saw a huge amount of vacant property on the other side of that other commercial building. That's right to the, would it be the east of this particular building? Okay. Because I'm curious, I understand the concept of their description of being in a fishbowl, particularly that they're already cutting down on that amount of glazing that's on that facade, but that would be an interesting thing for you guys to be able to collaborate on if some other options are possible. So look forward to that. Thank you.
I'll have some other questions. Okay, thank you. And we have rebuttal. Peter?
Yeah, I guess my first question, and I was speaking with staff, is I think Mr. Blake was referring to Section 8 of the guideline. Is that right?
Yes.
The guideline that is online only goes through Section 7, so some confusion about that. Stated September 28, 2017 in the header. So not sure what's happening there. But in response to some of the comments, we're being intentionally, we're showing some restraint, I think, on this corner. So there's a radius corner at the corner of Neely and Jefferson, and we're following the building setback line and introducing a 30-inch high low wall that I think we could be amenable to lowering to 24 inches, and it's going to be made out of the brick to match the mid-century architecture of the building. And then with respect to these smaller elements, I don't know if there's any way to zoom in on that bottom image at all. It's pretty helpful if there's this is a PowerPoint, or I'm not sure. It's not a PDF, but
bottom corner.
The 6-foot high element, which we, at one point the owner was wanting 8 feet or so, and again, we're trying to have some restraint and create a little courtyard there. So I think it's subjective, but, I would make the case that at some point that might be considered a building element, and it's an outdoor room there. And again, I think also the axonometric in the top left is maybe the best way to understand the quantity of wall that's at 6 feet. So it's not, it's certainly less than 2/3, and perhaps even only 30% or so of the total site wall that's in question. So, and there'll be landscaping there as well. So, that's it's an update to a non-contributing structure, and we think it's a sensitive project, but respect the opinion of Scott here. And I would like to sort out the confusion over the Section 8 of the guideline, which I don't see. Anyone?
Okay.
Is it possible to ask staff a question with this?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So I know here the recommendation was all architectural plans and materials shall be consistent with design guidelines. Is there any way that, I mean, because the building as a whole is not up for debate, it's literally just the fencing, right? And I know Peter is also sensitive to what Scott was bringing forward, and perhaps there's a time for that conversation to continue to happen without impeding the rest of this project as a whole. Is there any way to kind of isolate where the fence itself, they could actually have a moment of going through some collaboration? I'm seeing Peter's like, no.
So I think one of the things you could do, because I think that really the approval of the design is what you will be doing. So I think striking that condition would be the most appropriate, because there could be some conflict with that condition with whatever, I mean, because in the end, you guys are approving whatever the design is. So I would recommend that be.
Just prove the design. Is that what you're saying?
Just strike condition number 1.
Okay.
Because you're doing that on every project anyway. I mean, you're approving a design and.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
I would also.
They can get together and work it out.
Yeah, I would also, or go ahead, Peter, I'm sorry.
What is condition 1? How is it worded?
All architectural plans and materials shall be consistent with design guidelines.
I would argue.
I need to, yeah, I
Go
guess
ahead.
my interest would be in knowing that I can give a set of plans to a contractor to be built and not be found wanting after the fact. If you can relate to that.
I would argue this is a commercial building that's being converted to resi.
My head was around that as well.
Residential. This is not a residential structure that's trying to continue within the context of being a residential structure. So I don't mind his current heights because they work with the commercial structure and create privacy for the residents. And I think he has created restraint on that corner because it'd been easy to wrap the whole corner in a 6-foot wall.
Let's take this to our discussion.
Sure. May I make one more comment before that?
Sure.
If I'm still up, but if I were to put a roof, this is hypothetical, this 6-foot tall wall that's 12 feet long on the right side, for example, if I were to roof that and call it a building addition, and it's behind the building setback of the zoning code prescribes, that's no longer a site element. It's a building addition. So that's kind of absurd because it would look the exact same way. So, I mean, I would propose that we consider some flexibility in this and evaluate it on a case-by-case basis on its overall merits. There's also some perforated or wrought iron enclosure going across that corner, so it is even more of a building element than a site feature, but it's semantics maybe. Anyway, thanks.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to close it, get a motion. Let's have a motion and then close it for our discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve per staff recommendation.
Second.
For discussion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. I thought the same thing as you did when it first came up, is the commercial space versus the other types of Victorian or the residential. That was the first thing that I thought of as well.
And I agree with Peter that he's showing a lot of restraint, trying to show off the corner of the building by having.
Dresses the corner well.
Yeah, and you got to create privacy in some way for a residential structure. if you want any kind of outdoor space. So I really like it. I think it's a really creative idea of turning this from office to resi, which is a big conversion we're seeing all over the United States. It's a smaller scale version of it. What are you going to say, Selena?
Well, no, I see both aspects. Like I see the possibility of some slight redesign that could solve both of it. But I mean, the current solution looks good too. You know, it works with the overall style of this project. The fact that it's even basically working with the curve of the street, so it can utilize as much of the interior space as possible, while at the same time responding to, you know, that turning area. But I also know this kind of, it's almost like a stoop-like condition without there actually being steps up, where you are essentially walking right by the front door of the new resident. So how do you address that? How do you, like, what is appropriate? Does it have to be that sheltered? Can it be, since that's the main street part? Because I think Scott had also said that around the corner, that's not a question at all. That's behind the setback, that's behind everything. It creates its own little kind of nook. So it seems like the biggest question is where that new, one of the triplex's front doors is, and that's where that kind of lifts up the height to that 6 foot level. Is that something that is more of a design element of a kind of cap on both ends that match, or could that have a continuous of the low level with the railing that's above it still maintaining a certain level of transparency or not? So, I mean, there are other things that could happen. Is it the best solution? I don't know. I mean, the design is good as it is without the question of what else you can do. The, commercial versus residential, yeah, the commercial would be that it would be a complete open plaza. You would see it as it was. And now that we've incorporated the residential element, now we're trying to kind of create this little cubbyhole nook. So yeah, that's my question. I'm like, could there be another solution that's just as good as this design, just at that part, and still service the need to have some level of separation toward the entryway? And I guess that's kind of where I was asking if there could be a level of collaboration.
Some privacy.
Yeah, plus maintain a certain level of, like you said, separation. If you choose to get in this building, you already know your privacy has a little bit of a limitation. You already know this.
But you do need to have that feeling of space. I mean, I've lived downtown for 35 years, so I'm used to it. I am on a second floor, and I do have a little privacy set back. But, you know, my windows, I'm all glass on the front. Mm-hmm. And anybody can see anything I'm doing, So I understand the need for some feel of separation or of that tiny little piece that makes it
mine, makes it yours.
It makes it more desirable. Yeah.
So I was like, I don't have the answer. That's basically what it is. It's like, I think there could be other options. I think there could be other things that could happen, but that's for any designer. I mean, I could go in and redesign Peter's thing and it would be appropriate to me, but this is his project. This is your design. This is the solution that it came up with. Scott has provided reasonings of why they think that it could be done differently, and I kind of agree with both sides.
Are y'all going through?
I am no help.
Sorry, we're closing.
Yeah, we can't. Okay, did anybody else have anything more?
No.
I don't know, because it's a nice asset.
That's why I wish they would just.
I know.
Talk.
Yeah.
Are you ready for a vote, or y'all still?
I'm ready for a vote, but it's up to y'all.
Well, the vote would be what we, taking off the,
Well, if you wanted to strike condition 1, you could do that, and then just vote on the design as it is. Sounds like that.
what'd you say? Here, put your,
Could there be an option, I mean, if we approve it, could there be an option that if there is a change with the fence, considering the discussion that's going on today, like leave that as an option where that can be further ironed out, or?
well, I mean, there's always the option to discuss it with staff, but that's kind of a different, that's different from what you're saying.
I'm only asking because obviously there was a discrepancy between the design guidelines from how it looks like what was brought up by the neighborhood representative, and also from the design guidelines of what Peter was familiar with. And I was looking, it's not in the staff report that we received about the fencing. That section is not in there at all, because that's what I was looking at as they were talking. So I do think
I can't read that. For 40. Wrought iron cast.
I'm just saying what the discrepancy was. And,
Brickstone, there's the brickstone. More than 48 inches. So the short one isn't even in contention because it's less than that. It's the little taller space, and that's the only space.
The short one has fencing on top of it, like the short
I couldn't see it, does it?
Short brick wall has fencing, does it?
No, you can't just hop over and walk in the yard.
Sorry.
Sure.
If y'all want to open it.
Sorry, come back up.
Whatever the discrepancy was.
Well,
I don't even know.
hold on. I don't know if Dave, do y'all want to open it back up?
Yeah, open it back up.
Fine, it just.
There's no fencing on top of that short. No.
Is it just at the corner, or is that like the
Just a little
dividing?
it's
Is the
just a little
dividers?
thing right here.
It's a 30-inch high wall.
Yeah.
And they had talked about making it into a plant, building it as a double wall, and putting a planter in it. I don't think it was designed that way for cost reasons, but it's a brick wall that's 30 inches tall.
Yeah, there's nothing on top of that.
No,
Oh,
you're seeing
no.
the
I'm
horizontal.
seeing- yeah,
This
I'm-
is
yeah.
the AV projection quality.
So it's a little bit, I could even jump
You're
over.
seeing a horizontal mullion in the window beyond it.
Okay, I'm seeing the
It's the one
fencing
on the
that's
right that's in
perpendicular. I
contention.
think I'm seeing the one that's perpendicular to the face of the wall. Got it.
And the last thing I'll say is I would hate to be, I can go back and put a roof on these two taller elements and make them 8 feet tall, right? And call it a building addition.
No.
And I've read the guideline on building additions. It's brick to match the brick, and, but I don't think that makes it a better project.
So which part of the design guideline was not uploaded on the site? You said section 8?
I was incorrect, and I owe apologies to everybody in the room, frankly.
Oh, okay.
It was section 8, it was subsection 8 of section B, site design. Right.
So it is
I
uploaded.
got confused because the overall chapter stopped at 7. And I do recall, having looked at it now, I do recall seeing some regulations on this.
Side yard.
And Madam Chair, since we did open it back up and allow the applicant to speak,
Well,
Mr.
pardon.
Blake does have an opportunity to speak if
Okay.
he so chooses.
Blake, did you want to?
You have the option to if you want to, because we have to give equal time, so.
My only thought is, Ms. Strong, your question was perhaps we could have just between a short collaborative talk, maybe sort this out, very quickly, and then, Victorian Village Incorporated could send a letter to the staff saying, we've come to an agreement. If that makes it easier, because I know he needs to move ahead with the project.
Scott, why don't we request a motion to hold it? Because this was going to be a consent agenda item.
Yeah.
And if we hold it, then
But I guess for me, I'm like, y'all don't even have to hold it. Y'all could just work it out and we'd be fine.
I don't know if I'm allowed to speak, but I don't want to have it vote for rejection and we have roofs on those
Not
two
gonna
lots
vote for
and come back and
rejection.
say these are building additions and we're putting dirt behind the low wall and now, it's not going to materially change and it might be legal on technicalities, so I don't know what to do. But,
I mean, if I'm also may speak, I know everybody's hopping in, but I'm just saying.
Well,
If we do strike the first condition, that still leaves the room for opportunity to collaborate, because at the end of the day, if there are any changes to the COA, you have to come back here, period.
Well, that's what I'm
So
saying.
if we do strike the first condition, or if we keep it in, you all can still approve it, they can collaborate, and it still moves forward as.
Because that's essentially what we're trying to do.
That's what you had suggested in the first place.
Yeah, but if it makes everybody more comfortable, then we can strike the first condition. I mean, but I think the more appropriate thing is to ensure that what I'm hearing from the board is that they collaborate to make sure that there is a cohesive or conducive site plan.
Because I don't want no gable. Stop it.
Okay.
All right. I think I would say at the end of it is like, I'm not against the current design, but if there's something that could come from a collaboration, then awesome. But as it is, I don't have a problem.
Don't either.
So if we strike the first condition and just let things go the way that it is.
We would urge you.
So is that?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah,
Does that
if you wanna
work?
add that to your motion to strike the first condition without objection, then that we can continue discussing, or we can vote on that.
Urge you to continue to discuss them.
Sorry.
Urge you to continue to discuss it? You can't say that, can you?
No, I mean, I think that what I heard is just striking the first condition and then
Yeah.
that would
Let
be
it, let it stand.
Yeah.
Okay. Seriously. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll make a motion. Do I need to make
No.
We're good? You got it?
No objections.
No objections? No.
We've got a motion and a second, so we're good.
Okay.
All right. Ms. Love.
Yes.
Ms. Boyd.
Yes.
Mr. Gill.
Yes.
Ms. Strong.
Yes.
And Chair Tucker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, fellas.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Beautiful design, man.
Thanks, Blake.
We rejected you then. Really
Okay. So is there any, that's it, isn't it? No new business? Okay, so the next meeting is Thursday, the 25th. May I have a motion to dismiss?
Moved. Yes.
That's fine. Whatever.